Welcome to day 5 of our Reese Sew-a-long. Today is going to be the last video for the sew-along, but if you're doing the optional waist tie, you can go ahead and do that or do any catch-up work that you need to do the rest of this weekend. The first thing we need to do when we're working on the buttonholes and the buttons is to mark our buttonholes. So if you have an aluminum sewing gauge, this is a great time to use that. But Megan also included a paper gauge to use with the pattern. I already marked my buttonhole placement with clips, so now I'm just going to go over those marks with a washable fabric marker. And just a reminder that the buttonholes should be on the right side for the wearer. Since I'm not using a buttonhole attachment, I do need to make sure that I measure for each specific button. That's why I have them laid out in order, so hopefully I don't get them mixed up. I am leaving off the top button per my daughter's request. I don't know why, that button just irritates her, so I'm leaving that one off. But do pay attention that buttonhole is in the opposite direction of the other buttons. So just pay attention when you're doing that buttonhole. Once you've finished marking your buttonholes, we're going to actually stitch our buttonholes. The easiest way, and my recommendation, is to use your buttonhole attachment, but I know that not everybody may have a buttonhole attachment, or yours may have gone missing, or any number of reasons why you may want to do a buttonhole manually. Well, I guess not technically manually because we're not hand sewing it, but on just the regular sewing machine. So I'm just using zigzag stitches, and I'll put the specific settings I used in today's blog post. Yours may vary. You may need to play around with your specific machine, your specific fabric. So I do recommend using scrap fabric before you work on your actual placket. The other thing to keep in mind is that you will have a little bit less control and a little bit less accuracy doing them this way because it's a little bit harder to see underneath that presser foot. So just something to keep in mind. So for these buttonholes, you do 2 long rows of a more narrow zigzag stitch, and then at either end you place a very wide zigzag stitch just to close it off. Once you've got the buttonhole sewn up, you need to very carefully use a seam ripper to make the actual buttonhole. And it is smart to place some fray check around the opening just so your fabric doesn't fray, and then double check that the width is okay for your button. Of course, repeat those steps for all of your buttonholes, and then we will go ahead and attach our buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and sew my first button on now, just so that you don't have to watch me sew all those buttonholes. Of course, you can use your machine to attach your buttons too, but I typically just hand sew them. Once you've sewn up all of your buttonholes and attached all of your buttons, go ahead and check the fit to make sure they all fit, to make sure they're all aligned well, spaced evenly. Double check your work, and then once you're finished with that, you are all done with day 5. Just a reminder, there is no video for tomorrow, but you do have time to finish up the waist sash or any other steps you may need to catch up on. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We can't wait to see your finished Reese's.